May it please the Court. My name is Carvalko, and I'll be arguing on behalf of the petitioner on this matter. With the Court's permission, I ask for 2 minutes of rebuttal time at the end of my argument.
Right.
Marie Andrews' First Amendment rights were violated by the school officials when they suspended her, because not only was her speech not materially or substantially disruptive, but her actions constituted symbolic speech. Under the Tinker test, this Court requires that a student's speech be materially and or substantially disruptive for the school officials to suppress that speech. And in this case, Marie Andrews' the disruptions that were caused were not material or substantial. They were very minor, everyday disruptions that happen within a school environment. And students are not suspended for simply passing notes in class or giggling.
If we find that there was indeed a material and substantial disruption, or at least that her behavior posed such a risk, if we find that, can you still win?
Yes, Your Honor, because not only was she not substantially disruptive, but if she was, she still had a very strong, particularized message that her audience was likely to understand. And to convey this message, she had to wear this tuxedo. But at the case at bar, she wasn't materially or substantially disruptive, unlike the students in Blackwell. The students in Blackwell, in going around and forcibly pinning buttons onto other students, created a very substantial disruption because they stopped students in the hallway and took them aside and pinned these buttons on them. Whereas in this case, the case at bar, Marie Andrews didn't go around forcing students to accept the fact she was wearing a tuxedo, or she did not force them to wear parts of her message that she was trying to convey.
But is her actually forcing someone required by the law?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, can I phrase the question?
Well, sure. Where you're talking about the example with buttons, the students going around forcingly putting them on other students, is that required to constitute a disruption?
No, Your Honor. But, there must be a material or substantial disruption, and in this case there was not, because she simply wore her tuxedo and carried on as she would normally. And for a student to just be, giggled at in class, simply almost mocked for wearing something different than the standard norm for a girl, is not enough to suspend or even punish a student.
But under Tinker, isn't it enough to create a potential for disruption? One doesn't actually have to occur?
Yes, Your Honor. But the students in Tinker, for example, wore simple black armbands, and and Miss Andrews wore a simple tuxedo. Just because a student is wearing something that she would not or he would not normally wear is not enough, for the court to say or the teacher to say that there is a disruption here because she's not, the same as everyone else. Also, I would like the court to keep in mind that Maria was suspended on a day with no disruptions. Furthermore, under the...
Well, I'm sorry, maybe I don't understand the facts, but wasn't she prevented from going to class?
Yes.
Doesn't that mean...
Yes, Your Honor. That was Miss Miller's undifferentiated fear towards her. And the undifferentiated fear decided in the Barber case was, undifferentiated fear is not enough to base a policy on, never mind, suspend a student. And Miss Miller actually was not only one of her teachers, but she was head of the yearbook committee, and she was the one who oversaw the yearbook, so she was the one who removed Amber Green's photo, which gives way for the teacher's perspective, the teacher's view on Marie Andrews' tuxedo, gives it not as almost like an even tone, so to speak, about the issue. Furthermore, Marie Andrews passed both prongs of the Spence test. Prong 1 being whether or not her symbolic speech, or she had symbolic speech and conveyed a particularized message, and prong 2 being whether or not that speech was likely to be understood by her audience. In Spence, this court decided that if a student has a particularized message and that message is likely to be understood by her audience, then it's symbolic speech and is protected under the First Amendment. And Amber Green's particular message in this case was her opposition to Amber Green's photo being removed from the yearbook.
Well, counsel, wasn't her message not clearly understood by other people? Wasn't there an instance where a student passed her a note saying, "What's with the tux?" Doesn't that show that maybe it wasn't so clear?
Well, Your Honor, Walter MacArthur was one student, and it's not in the record that multiple students had come up to her. Furthermore, in her response, her isn't it obvious response, shows that, the day before, because this was the second day when he had asked, the day before she didn't get much opposition. For if she had, then maybe she would have given an answer oh, well, this is about, and then stated what she was advocating. Yet her just simple, isn't obvious response shows that she didn't get much confusion.
So, Counselor, what is her exact message?
Her exact message is she's opposing what had happened to Amber Green and her photo being removed. And on a larger scale, she's advocating diversity, and it should be okay for students to dress, how they feel they should or how they want. As long as it's within the school rule.
So her wearing of the tuxedo was to support Amber Green. It wasn't to run for president?
Well, yeah, at the time she was running for president, but she was competing with various things, in trying to get her message out. With the commotion going on in the school, she was competing against Kevin Ham, who was a very popular student. There was AP reviews, and she had to kind of get more attention to herself, up her popularity so that she could advocate this message more widely and more effectively to more people. And to do this, she had to run for president, hand out flyers, and have her uncle speak on her behalf. Then that's what she had to do.
Well, Counsel, don't those flyers, the fact that on one side it had her message and on the other side it had her uncle's tuxedo company, doesn't that take away from, this? It's clear this is her message with maybe she was trying to promote her uncle's tuxedo store.
Well, Your Honor, she only advocated, or she didn't advocate. Her uncle spoke on behalf of the tuxedo store once, and then it was on one side of the flyer. Yet her campaign slogan, the See the Big Picture campaign, which referred to Amber Green, was spoken about on 2 different occasions at 2 different assemblies, and it was on one side of the flyers. So that point was more widely advocated than the tuxedo. Furthermore, just because there were 2 female students who wore a tuxedo in the course of 1 month, and there was most likely, being a high school student and these being reasonable students, they could most likely infer that there was a connection. At bottom, this case is about a female student who wore a tuxedo and opposed, Ms. Miller or the school's decision on something previously. And the school officials infringed upon her rights when they suspended her for simply being different. And her tuxedo was not disruptive, and she had a message that was very important. And for the foregoing reasons, we as the petitioners ask that the Supreme Court reverse the appellate court's decision in this matter. Thank you.